welcome you to this celebration of the life of Sanford Leon Parker. I'm very honored to be here today as we come together to remember him and express our love and admiration for him as we pay tribute to his life. I had the special honor of meeting Mr. Parker at his daughter Cheryl's home 2 years ago. It was an eagerly awaited meeting because Cheryl is like a sister to me. I was immediately struck by Sanford's strong personality, his sharp wit, and at times, his sharp tongue. But it was always evident to me that his heart was big and full of love, care, and loyalty for those around him, including my own children, who grew to affectionately call him Grandpa. He made a huge impression on me in the brief time I spent with him, and he quickly made a permanent home for himself in my heart. Sanford had some very specific beliefs, and as a result, specific wishes regarding the proceedings here today. I hope his family will gain some comfort knowing that they were able to carry his wishes out, as I'm sure Sanford gained comfort in knowing that they would respect his wishes. One of Sanford's quotes was, "My church is wherever I am." He had a firm belief in his own personal God, whom he had a direct relationship with. Our ceremony today will not be religious, as that would be against his wishes. I know there may be those among you for whom religious faith is a central part of life, and who are more familiar with a different form of service. But I hope that we can agree that human values that we all share are far more lasting importance than those matters that might divide us in this respect. So now we will play one of Sanford's favorite songs. Let's spend these moments remembering Sanford in our own way. And for those of you who do have religious belief, you may want to take this time for your own private prayer. At this time, our thoughts also go out to Sanford's family, who have unselfishly devoted themselves to supporting him through all of his illness, and also in turn their dear friends who have supported his family.
I was born and raised down in Alabama on a farm way back up in the woods. I was so ragged, folks used to call me Patches. Papa used to tease me about it, of course deep down inside he was hurt because he'd done all he could. My papa was a great old man. I can see him with a shovel in his hand. See, education he never had. He did wonders when the times got bad. The little money from the crops he raised barely paid the bills we made. Oh, life had kicked him down to the ground. When he tried to get up, life would kick him back down. One day, Papa called me to his dying bed, put his hands on my shoulders, and in tears he said, "Patches, I'm depending on your son to pull the family through. My son, it's all left up to you." 2 days later, Papa passed away, and I became a man that day. So I told Mama I was gonna quit school, but she said that was Daddy's strictest rule. So every morning before I went to school, I fed the chickens and I chopped wood too. Sometimes I felt that I couldn't go on. I wanted to leave, just run away from home. But I would remember what my daddy said, with tears in his eyes on his dying bed. He said, "Patches, I'm depending on you, son. I've tried to do my best. It's up to you to do the rest."
Now Sanford's nephew, who was like a son to him, Stephen Howell, will read the obituary.
Lieutenant Colonel Sanford Leon Parker, age 83, of Evanston, Illinois, passed quietly in his sleep at home on February 3rd, 2018, surrounded by love and tranquility after a 7-year battle with stage 4 cancer. Sanford was born to the late Clinton and Marguerite Parker, August 29, 1934, in Minnesota, Alabama. Sanford was the 5th child of 6. He graduated from Tuskegee Institute High School in 1952. In 1957, he received a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering and a commission in ROTC at Tuskegee University. He obtained a master's degree in Inner City Studies at Northeastern Illinois University in 1981. He married Dolores on January 31st, 1959 in Zion, Illinois. They celebrated their 59th anniversary a few days before he passed. Together, they raised 5 children, moving his family from Urbana, Chanute Air Force Base, Rantoul, Illinois, Pullman, Washington, overseas on the Philippine Islands at Clark Air Force Base, Old Orchard Beach, Maine, Liverpool, New York, Lynchburg, Virginia, and eventually settling in Evanston, Illinois. Sanford leaves as his legacy his devoted wife, Dolores, of 59 years, and his 5 children. Cheryl Parker of Notasulga, Alabama, husband Dawood Jahi. Lawrence Parker of Evanston, Illinois, wife Georgia. Ronald Parker of Evanston, Illinois. Eric Parker of Skokie, Illinois, wife Donna. And Jason Parker of Evanston, Illinois, wife Brenda. Sanford also leaves to cherish his memory one sibling, Ernestine Ware of Chicago, Illinois. Grandchildren Monique, Kashim, Kelly Jr., Kyle, Monica, Kamal, Ashley, Caleb, Otto, Dylan, Olivia, Evan, and Ava. Great-grandchildren Rashid, Ayana, Kashim Jr., Johnny, Rashad, Milan, and Mariana, and a host of nieces, nephews, relatives, and friends. Sanford was a longtime member of the U.S. Air Force, maintaining various positions in active duty from 1958 to November 1969, and retiring from the Air Force Reserve in August of 1981 with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He was included in the 1969 edition of Outstanding Young Men of America for outstanding civic work. He was awarded the Air Force Commendation Medal for meritorious service. In the civilian world, Sanford was an engineer working at companies such as General Electric as the headquarters salesman, contract administrator. He worked for the Department of Energy as a contract specialist and the U.S. Railroad Retirement Board as a contract administrator. He retired from the U.S. Railroad Retirement Board in May of 1993. Sanford also participated in community service organizations such as the USJCs, the NAACP, and the Newcomers Club. He also had a passion for poetry and writing, often taking life's events and topics to articulate his words. Sanford loved his family and provided a secure life for them. He was an avid lover of sports, in particular softball, baseball, football, and track. I think you forgot basketball on here too. He won second fastest in the state of Alabama when in high school. In July of 2017, he traveled with the Evanston Senior Olympic team, participated in basketball, successfully making a free throw. What a fighter. He was always very active in coaching and supporting his family in all their activities and always encouraging them. There were many newspaper articles that he clipped and saved copies of, as he was so proud of his children's achievements as they grew into adulthood. He was a giver. He didn't necessarily like you to ask, but if he saw the need, he offered to help. On many occasions, he supported camping trips, Christmas parties, and gatherings for all to enjoy. His kind heart cannot be denied. He was always helping others. Just a minute. Sanford was a fixer-upper, a teacher. If he was fixing something, he had you right there showing you how to do it. So next time, you knew how to do it yourself. Sanford believed in no idols. You are just as good as anybody and can do whatever you put your mind to, just like they did, he would say. Depending on who was calling in, he was lovingly known as Dad, Pops, Grandpa, Uncle Leon, Uncle Sanford, Leon, and Sandy, after Sandy Koufax, because of his love for baseball and the similarities of his first name and skills. I didn't know about that part. Although he wasn't a left-handed pitcher, his pitch was just as powerful. By whatever name you called him, know that he lived a full, prosperous life. He will be missed dearly.
Let's welcome Sanford's third grandson, Caleb Jefferson, who will now perform one of his original songs. Sanford was very proud of Caleb.
There are incredible things you'll never see. I'm sorry, this is how it has to be. And when I think alone, I ponder how things would be different if you were home. See the light differently than your eyes. Oh, I wonder if you were to cry, how it change our lives. And I've seen my mother fall. Would you be there to lift her off the ground when she's feeling down and no one's around? And when I think alone, I wonder how things would be different if you were home. You'd have a head made of iron and bone. Bone, bone, bone. You'd have a head made of iron and bone. Bone, bone. I take your threads into my own and show you how the world is sown. I wonder if you pinch my nerves, take the letters from my words. And I've seen my sentence fall. Would you be there to lift it off the ground when I'm feeling down and she's not around? When I think alone, I wonder how things would be different if you were home. You'd have a head made of iron and bone. ironing home, home,
Monique Hudson, Sanford's first granddaughter, will now read The Creation of Life, a poem written by Sanford, which you can find on the back of the program.
The Creation of Life, written some time ago by my grandfather, Sanford Parker. I know God is the creator of our sacred soul, a soul that flows through life within a body of clay mold, a soul conceived upon life until death, with an earthly path to external health and wealth. My soul, your soul, there is no difference. Both are ultimate proof of God's existence. Do you understand? Understand? I don't think so. Therefore, I must say more. Human souls are God's most treasured pearls, given earthly life in thy holy name, being precious gems that will prevail through eternity as ultimate testimony till they scared sacred fame. Our blessed souls were created by God from a formula I know they will never part. Since only God can provide the answer to its history, the creation of life shall forever remain a mystery. And there will never be anyone between my God and me.
Now Sanford's third son, Eric Parker, will deliver the eulogy.
We are here to celebrate the life of Lieutenant Colonel Sanford Parker, my dad. Dad was such an influential part of my life. A year ago, back in one of those rooms down the hall, we were deciding what to do on this day. I remember sitting there and my dad was like, well, you need to say something. At least he gave me, this was about a year ago, so at least I had enough time. At the time, we didn't know how soon it would be. I just want to give some examples today of how he made me into the man that I am. When I was 10 years old, I had never been on an airplane. Now, I'm not sure if it's politically correct to say this, but that's kind of a first world problem. For those of you who don't know, a third world problem is, if you don't know where your next meal is going to come from. Not having been on an airplane as a 10-year-old, that is definitely a first world problem. So anyway, but I mentioned this to my father, and I don't know, a couple of weeks later, he had arranged a trip to Las Vegas, just me and him. I remember I was so excited being on the airplane. They would give me this playing cards, and I just couldn't believe it. They're free, and they're like, you want some cards? We give you some cards. Then when we got to Vegas, it was so kid-friendly. All the casinos, there was a circus at the Circus. I was playing video games. We went to Hoover Dam, we played in the pool. That was just a great trip. I have such great memories of the two of us on that trip. And as a matter of fact, I've been to Vegas 30 plus times as an adult, which is too many. But I've never had as much fun as I did that first time with my father. Also, I found out later, just by deduction, that he did not like to fly. Even though he was in the Air Force, my father did not like to fly. That was the one and only time I remember flying with him, so it shows what he would do for his family. So even though we did not go on the airplanes much, we did travel. That does not mean we did not travel. My love of road trips came from my father. Most summers we would go on these long road trips, 7 to 10 days or so. I just like I remember planning it out, and we'd get this food like Vienna sausages or homemade chicken and bring in the car. And it was just such great memories. But now when I was real young, like 6 or 7, I didn't like it as much. One reason, we were in a car. So it was a very big car. My father liked big cars, but it was a car nevertheless. So there'd be 4 of us in the back seat, me and my older 3 siblings. And behind us there would be this area, like a flat area behind you, and then some room before the windshield. So when they needed room, they would make me ride up in the back seat and end it on that little area back there so they could all stretch out. So that part was not fun. But later on, we started getting these vans. My dad bought these vans. They're not minivans, they were vans. Each one seemed like it was bigger than the next. We had some great times in those vans. I mean, a lot of you here were part of those van rides. Officially, these vans would hold like 8 people. But unofficially, you could pack in 12, 13, 15. So there was kind of like a core group of us for these trips, and it would bother us when we would get extra people, right? So for example, we'd be driving to DC, and we'd have to stop in Detroit to get some unknown third cousin to figure out their tickets. And by the way, Detroit's not really on the route to DC, but that was our trips. We just went wherever. But it always worked out. We'd be mad, like, who is this guy? Why not travel with this guy? But by the end, we'd be good friends, you know? So in the van, I always had fun on these road trips. People today could probably use more road trips without cell phones. You're forced to talk and cherish the journey, which is another thing my father taught me. Now, there was one not so great part about these road trips. So we'd be driving maybe 20 hours in one day. We probably drove 40 hours over the past week. We're in the final stretch, right? We're coming up through Indiana. We see the Chicago skyline. We're almost home. We're getting into the city limits. And what happens? I bet someone can guess. Let's go stop and see Aunt Eunice. No matter what, if we were within 5 miles, we had to go stop and say hi. That was my dad. He had to stop and say hi to a friend. A final thought about road trips. I was recently on a trip with my family, which is my immediate family, me, Donna, and the 3 kids. We had stopped to take a break at a restaurant. And at the table, I started joking with Donna, saying, you know, what if I just told you I was going to the bathroom and you just left, you never saw me again? What would you do? She thought about it for a minute and she said, I'd call your dad. I couldn't believe it. I was like, you have like a dozen siblings, right? My dad. But she said, because she knows he would handle the situation. He would make arrangements, he would contact someone, he would contact me. And she was right, that was my dad. He was someone you would think to call in that situation. Another topic. My father didn't talk too much about the racism that he experienced growing up. And for me, this worked out well. I mean, I try to see people as individuals, and I don't have preconceived notions. But sometimes I do think about what he, my mom, and that whole generation experienced in the Deep South in the 30s. Separate water fountains, separate bathrooms. These road trips I talked about would not have been so easy back then. You know, like where would you eat? Where would you stop to stay that was safe overnight? You can't just book a hotel on the internet. My parents accomplished so much despite this and created that first world home for me and my siblings. My father was a terrific athlete. He loved to play sports, and he was fast. As you saw in the obituary, he was the 2nd fastest man in the state of Alabama at one time. And he could catch, too. He would football, baseball, softball. He would always tell me about these outstanding catches he would make. If you can get your hand on it or your glove on it, then you should catch it. Surprisingly, he did not get me too much into organized sports. Like, I don't really remember him coaching me that much growing up. And I'm pretty sure it has to do with birth order, because my older 3 siblings, who there's a 6-year gap, coached them in all kinds of things. By the time I came around, I'm sure he was just too tired. Like, I have 3 kids, I coached them. If I had a 4th or 5th, probably not. Probably not. So I did not have organized sports, but that doesn't mean we didn't play. We had unorganized sports all the time. So Memorial Day, we'd be playing softball. Labor Day, we'd play volleyball. Thanksgiving, football. Christmas, basketball. And they all mix and match. Any holiday, we'd be playing something. I try to keep this tradition alive whenever I host something at my house. I like to go outside and play. I got this from my father. And then as a young adult, maybe around the age 19, I started playing basketball with him. There's a group that we have, we play on every Sunday. We play it still to this day. It's been 30 years for me, probably 40 plus for some of the others. I loved having an opportunity to play basketball with my father for so long. Also, the final quote-unquote not so great thing about my father was he had very strong opinions. He was not a fun person to get into certain discussions with. Discussion/argument, right? So sometimes I get in these, we'll call them discussions with him, and I think I'm making a really good point. I'm like, oh, Dad, but look, it says right here that blah, 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 blah. And he'll just give you this wave of the hand. I'm like, Dad, no, I'm getting mad. Dad, no, look, seriously, it says here. That was just him. He wasn't going to change his mind, whatever it was. So, in summary, the amount of items my father taught me is way too great to just mention all of them today. I will miss my dad greatly, but I am truly glad his suffering is over, and I know he's in a better place now. Thanks.
And now Caleb will perform an original song written by him especially for his grandfather.
Had about 2 days to prepare for this one. It's gonna be a little rocky, but anyway. Story begins in black and white before the night's begun. Story begins. He meets a goddess form of Dolores. The story begins. The man among men. The story begins, but it never ends. Tick-tock, he's our grandfather clock. His hands hold our hours, our minutes, our second hand moments with him. Tick-tock, he's our grandfather clock. We hold his legacy, wishes, his humble beginnings with us. The night it has come, tug at his breast pocket, the only thing to slow this man. His body moves on, 5 children will carry him, strong night and we lived. The story begins, but it never ends. The story begins, but it never ends. Tick-tock, he's our grandfather clock. His hands hold our hours, our minutes, our second hand moments with humble beginnings with us. Leon, live on through my mother. Leon, live on through I. Leon, live on through the countless lives that you've touched. Leon, live on through the brothers. Leon, live on through your wife. Leon, live on through the countless lives that you've touched. Story begins, and this never ends. His story begins, and moment. His story begins, this never ends.
Cheryl Parker, the oldest child, is also his one and only daughter. She will read for you the letter she wrote to him while he was still here.
I've always felt uncomfortable standing in the front of a group talking, but my dad has always told me I can do anything I put my mind to, so here I am. On June 1st, 2017, I got the urge to write my dad a letter to let him know what was in my heart before it was too late. And it goes like this. To my one and only dad, it's simple, Dad. I thought you should know. I don't want you to go, although we all do. My mind just doesn't want it to be so. The thoughts hit me often out of nowhere, and I feel a pang in my heart at the possibility. It happens everywhere at any time. I want you here in this physical world forever, as you've always been, since June 13th, 1960 and before. You are my background. Although you may not realize how much I've learned from you, you are my foundation, the memories. I remember you chasing me, laughing and me running straight into that iron coal. You was there in a flash to comfort me. I remember the time I jumped off the dock and into the lake as a little girl thinking I could swim. You didn't hesitate to save me from drowning. I learned to feel safe. I learned trust. I have other memories and thoughts you might not be too familiar with. I remember the family dinners. Sometimes you seemed uncomfortable, but determined. Even then, I recognized your resolve to find the words to get across whatever the topic was. Even as a small child, I realized it wasn't always easy for you to verbalize your feelings. Later, learning because of your experiences growing up. And I wanted to somehow make it easier for you, but I didn't know how. My heart went out to you. I appreciate you loving us. I know it wasn't easy for you to show your love through hugs, and I did long for them. I know it got easier for you in the later years. But did you know I made a vow in those early years that when I had children, I would hug and kiss them all the time. I was so excited the first time I saw you and Mom hold hands. I knew you loved each other. By the time Eric and Jason came along, I was old enough to know you had to be making some kind of contact. Just not so much in public. I can really tell you how much you love her and depend on her, and her on you. Remember my little attention-seeking tantrums? I wanted to feel that you loved me. You were there, have always been, and will always be here. You have supported me through times not always happy with how I chose my life, but we all have to do it in our own way, learn our own lessons. I am grateful of the woman I am. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be me. I tell people all the time how you watched and guided me through oil changes, starting the car using a screwdriver on the solenoid, holding the carburetor open, pouring a little gas in there. You know, one time when I was doing it myself, I caught it on fire at the gas station. Changing a tire, jumping the battery, and other stuff. You didn't do it for me, you made me do it myself, so I could learn by doing. It taught me to be independent, that I could do anything that I put my mind to. All the activities I was in growing up, you coached my softball team and saved every article. Came to my track meets, my gymnastic tournaments, encouraged my swim lessons. You were there for all of it, engaging me to learn. I was happy when you were proud of me. It was because of you and not taking anything away from my mom, because she was there too, that I had a desire to learn different things. Like when I took motorcycle lessons that summer in high school, you went out and bought a 125cc motorcycle. Talk about support. Dad, I remember loving it when I was younger and not liking it so much when I was a teenager, stopping at a million extra places because you wanted to show us some historical place or thing, or having to visit someone you cared about because they were only a few miles away. I remember just wanting to reach our destination, but you didn't want us to miss an opportunity to show us or to teach us, or us to meet the people you cared about. That gave me the desire to see and know things for myself. I remember being so sad when it was time to move from state to state. I would have made friends and just got used to my surroundings. It was hard for me at the time, but now I know it helped me to adapt to change, people and places. It allowed me to know that things can change in a moment, with or without notice. It taught me the lessons of no attachment. Oh gosh, Dad, do you remember? I do. The time at home in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, you had built the shed on the deck, and you jumped down off the shed, and your leg went through the deck. I was inside the doorway, cracking up. I thought it was so funny, but you didn't find the humor in it, and my little legs felt it. Do you know that taught me not to laugh at others' pain, and not to allow my children to either. It helped instill sensitivity to others' pains, sufferings, and misfortunes. I remember in Liverpool, New York, getting a spanking in front of my friends from you, because whatever I did, I knew I wasn't supposed to do, and I did it in front of them, so the consequences were for them to see. Afterwards, me and my friends were walking down the street and them saying, "You must hate him. How could he do that to you?" Me stopping them in their tracks and asking, why would I hate my dad? I told them I knew I had did something I wasn't supposed to do and was fully aware of the consequences. I had a choice. You would always get me something afterwards. You always felt bad when you had to spank me. You know what it taught me? You know what it taught me? It taught me to let my children know, to give them a warning that if they did this or that, exactly what would happen, leaving the choice in their hands. I'd always talk to them afterwards to make sure they fully understood why they got a spanking. But you softened in time when it came to spanking. Remember you trying to save Caleb from one of the few he got? You took pictures and made it the cover picture on your computer. I was like, seriously, Dad, you were the one that taught me. I remember when I got my first job at 15. You stopped all the buying and started buying, and I started buying my own clothes and taking care of my own needs. Remember that first Christmas after my first job? It went from mounds of gift on the tree for just one for me. All my younger brothers still got their many gifts. I was disappointed, but I tried not to show it. I remember sitting there thinking, okay, I understand I'm working now. Time to take care of myself, to grow up, to be responsible. I was grateful, though you still bought me a car when I got my license, which gave me the freedom to grow. You had to have some confidence in me that I could handle it. One of the biggest things I remember that really filled my heart was you writing a part in Zipporah's obituary. I realized then you were a poet. That touched me so deeply. You put other things aside. Last thing was a car accident I was in. You was there in a flash. I felt your love and your concern that I would be okay. Dad, although I didn't do it in the way you might have envisioned for your little girl, I am proud of who I am. I love and accept me and all my experience. I know I have a kind spirit and heart. A great portion of that came from you. I see through you and how you love and care. We do it differently at times, but I am the woman I am today because of you, Mom, and my upbringing, and all else that has molded me. Women have told me, even a man, that you cannot find a good man, that they're all dogs, not going to take care of their families, that they all cheat, especially black men. I'm like, how are you going to tell me I have 4 brothers and a father, all of whom I consider men who are therefore take care of their families and have never known them to cheat? So these same people want to debate, go on and debate, that I'm not with them 100% of the time, so how do I really know? I tell you, people could just not be okay with a positive response. I do know that because of your example, they are the men that they are today. You have the biggest heart. You can be a little rough around the edges at times. I've always recognized that fact, even though you hurt my feelings from time to time with your kind of sarcastic, condescending, you should know it tone. I did seek your approval. That gave me the strength when others say hurtful things to realize it was them and not me, and to be forgiving and still love or not disassociate myself, because sometimes people don't know how to talk to other people and it's not personal. I don't take it to heart. I am a stronger, more understanding person because of it. I must say I am grateful for our recent conversations and that email you sent me saying you love me, and those who came before me would be proud of me being here in Alabama, cultivating it, moving it forward so that we and future generations can benefit from the family land. I tell people often that you and I have this opportunity to connect in a way we have never in the past. Of course, I wish we lived closer so I could be more helpful. I know this is all hard for you. I can only imagine. You have always taken care of us, been the caregiver. It is in your heart to do so. Dad, you could never be a burden to me. You have done so much. I'll never forget. I know it's hard to not be able to do the things you've enjoyed in the past. Focus on what you feel capable of doing. You have always pushed yourself, which I admire. I love the fact that you still get out and go to the Levy Center, drive, and your desire to go to the Senior Olympics. I do understand others' concern, but I'm one to say keep on pushing as much as you can. Don't give up unless you know within yourself you're just too tired. You seem so excited to go. It was important to me to write some of the memories and how they've molded me. I love you, Dad, and thought you should know. And I wanted to say, thanks for being my dad. As Eric mentioned, he did make it to the Senior Olympics. My brother Ron and I were there. I want to say, so grateful I got the opportunity to take care of him in the end. Starting in August, I started spending weeks at a time with him, putting all else aside. I have an understanding husband and son back at home that could handle things on the home front. I felt so close to my dad. I am so grateful that in the end, he just stopped breathing while he slept versus gasping for air. He so deserved that after all of his sufferings and the giving person he was. I am proud to be his daughter and proud to call this man here my dad. Thank you all for allowing me to share this letter with you in honor of my dad.
If anyone would like to share any words about Sanford, we'd like to welcome you to come and speak now.
I'm John January. I'm Dolores' brother. Dolores is my oldest sister. And I've looked up to Sanford for a long time. I've known him for more than 60 years. And one date that I remember all the time is January 31st, 1969. That was the day that they were married. And that's been etched in my wife and I, we got married in January also. But anyway, we have a great celebration today for a great man. A great man. The life of a great man. It's a legacy that he is leaving. And I see it in all of his sons and his daughter. And I've said that before. I mean, I haven't said it to them personally, but I've said, my wife and I, we notice how they interact with their children. And that's the way Sanford interacts with his children. And like Caleb said, it's going to be passed on. And it's a great thing. A couple of things that I want to share with you. There's a lot of things that Caleb and Cheryl shared that I was thinking on, but they already shared it, so I'm not going to share it again. But like I said, I was 12 years old when Sanford and Dolores got married. And I used to really love it when they would come back, you know, when they're between places that they were stationed at. But I was a track man also. And when I was about 16 years old, I was one of the top track stars, and I mean, one of the top sprinters in the area, but it was just for Lake County and for the conference that I was in. So Sanford came around, and I challenged him. I'm going to show him a few things, because I was fast, I was quick. And so we got ready to run out in the backyard, and he said, go, and he was about 5 yards in front of me before he better than I said, wow, I'm not as fast as I thought I was. But something that he did, I went to a track meet one time to see his sons run. I think it was Ron and Larry. And I said to him, which one is faster? But they weren't racing against each other. And something he said to me kind of stuck with me. He said, don't compare. Don't compare. You know, he loves them all equally. And from things that have been said, I know that he is a great man. That's what a man should be like, you know, with family. A real family man. He did so many things with his children, a lot of things we'll never know about, but he has had an influence on them, and an influence on people that see, you know, what he's done. And he's going to really truly be missed. He's going to really truly be missed. I really love the time that I have known him. And I know my brothers and sisters. I'm speaking on behalf of my brothers and sisters. I was supposed to say that in the beginning, but I didn't. But I know they have the same feelings that I have toward them. And I love my sister Dolores. We play Words with Friends all the time. In fact, she played me this morning. It's my turn. Anyway, I want to say to the family, the immediate family, may the peace be with you during this time. Well, not just for this time, but forevermore. Let that peace reign and rule in your heart. Amen.
This might be a little more emotional for me. Because it's my first time really seeing him. After he's been there for me in every situation, every last one. I mean, you know, I had an okay life growing up, but at times it was hard. And as a young man, I would feel alone at times. You know what I'm saying? Like I would feel real alone. My grandpa always was there, you know. The day that he passed, you know, all my other siblings, everybody been there to see him but me, you know. And I felt bad, but I would drive around, you know, I would come out to Illinois and I would drive around and just be so hard for me to see him like that. You know, it just was so hard because he was like my rock, you know, taught me how to drive. He brought me to those Sunday sessions that they was talking about. Every football game. Every basketball game, y'all. That man right there was there. You know, and I just want to say, you know, because I never got a chance to tell him, you know, because like they say, he wasn't the most emotional person, but, you know, Grandpa, I love you, you know, and I love everybody in here. And he taught me how to be a better man for my daughter, for my little brothers, and, you know, so that's all I want to say is I love you, Grandpa. And,
My name is Reginald Matilda. First of all, I'm really surprised that Mr. Parker's name was Leon. I thought it was Sanford always around Parker. I started playing basketball with Mr. Parker about 40 years ago. Okay. He was a good person to have on your team. Because if there's a question about a foul, all you do is step back and let him talk. You didn't want him to be on the other side, on the other team. You wanted him to be on your team. But Mr. Parker, when you say a black man, that's who he was. From where he came, what he did during his lifetime, is more than exceptional. We used to, when we played, he always showed a lot of love for his kids. Now his kids could go ahead and take your arm off and then drop on the floor. But if you scratched one of them, there was a problem, okay? There was a serious problem. He's gonna be missed by a lot of people. One of the reasons why I'm still playing basketball today is because of Mr. Sanford. He's been playing for a long time. Okay, and Mr. Sanford was never a person that he bowed to. Okay, and I never bowed to any man except my father. But today, I want to make sure I take the time to bow to that man. He taught me a lot, just about being a man and being a father. Nothing he said is what he did consistently. So with that, I just want to say that. Aaron, thank you.
Hello, my name is Donna Parker, and Mr. Parker is my father-in-law. I'm married to his son, Eric. Is the kindest person I've ever met. He is a man of integrity. He is a great father. And he is all of those things because of Mr. Parker. He learned all of those things, especially about spending time with his kids. Through his dad. I was very fortunate to have my father. He worked hard to take care of my mother and my 14 siblings. But he wasn't one that was very involved in our lives as far as activities. And so it was so wonderful to be part of the Parker family and to see a man that was at every game his kids played in, that was at all of his grandchildren's games, basketball, football, soccer. He was there. And even at the end, as he got very sick and he had to use a walker, he would come to the games and he would be on the grass. He would be walking with his walker to be able to attend Dylan's game or Evan's game or cheer Ava on in basketball. I didn't feel like I talked to Mr. Parker a lot. Didn't have a lot of long conversations, I should say, over the years. And I regret that I didn't have a chance to thank him for making my husband into the man that he is today, and the husband that he is to me, and the father that he is to our children. And I always say that you're more likely to see the boys with their kids than the wives with the kids. You see Eric, you see Evan, Ava, and Dylan frequently more than you see them with me. And I know that he learned all of that firsthand with his father. Thank you.
2 days later, Papa passed away, and I became a man that day. So I told Mama I was gonna quit school, but she said that was Daddy's strictest rule. So every morning before I went to school, I fed the chickens and I chopped wood too. Sometimes I felt that I couldn't go on. I wanted to leave, just run away from home. But I would remember what my daddy said, with tears in his eyes on his dying bed. He said, Patches, I'm depending on you, son. I've tried to do my best. It's up to you to do the rest. Then one day a strong rain came and washed all the crops away. And at the age of 13, I thought I was carrying the weight of the whole world on my shoulders. And you know, Mama knew what I was going through, 'cause every day I had to work the fields. 'Cause that's the only way we got our meals.
Firing party! Head, hunt! Well, hey!
All the kids are grown. They just took Mama to a brand new home. Lord knows, people, I shed in tears, but my dad's voice kept me through the years. Saying, Patches, I'm depending on your son. The family through. My son, it's all left up to you. Mama's voice said, Patches, I'm depending on your son. I've tried to do my best. It's up to you.